Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 8th Annual East Brunswick Education Association Meet the Candidates Night, the original Meet the Candidates Night. I would like to ask our Government Relations Chair, Chris Finnegan, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. We're going to try to be as quick as possible because we have 9 candidates with us tonight, and we want you to get a chance to hear from all of them. So I am the president of the East Brunswick Education Association, representing 1,300 teachers and support staff within our schools. Again, this is the 8th time, and we're thrilled to be hosting it, and we hope that this will help in making your decisions. It is being aired right now live on our Facebook page, and it will also be on YouTube, EBTV YouTube, and also on EBTV. This night is sponsored by the New Jersey Education Association and the EBA Public Education Partnership Committees. Through these, we were able to apply for grants that totaled last year $170,000. So yes, we gave $170,000 to the community and to the schools. Our teachers and support staff write grants for classroom materials in all different areas, and we're happy to support that. And then also just in our community, love the Park and Recs program, and love to help them out every way we possibly can, including our beloved VFW and Tommy Cohill. We always make sure we sponsor his events as well. Moving on, we want to thank in the back Adam Neary, the executive producer and vice president, for supporting our needs here tonight in this lovely venue. And we want to thank Anthony and his crew back there, manager of EBTV, for filming this event and making this just a perfect situation, like so smooth, so incredibly smooth. A huge thank you to people behind the scene, our office manager, Janine Morena, who produced the lovely pamphlet that you have with the candidates' information. And I want to thank all of our volunteers that greeted you as you came in. All of our volunteers, our teachers or support staff that work in our schools, and without them, this night would not be possible. Now we have our 9 wonderful candidates running tonight, and I'm going to ask our Government Relations Chair, Chris Finnegan, to take it over at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. I'd like to announce our candidates who we have seated in ballot order. So we'll start off with Anna Braun, Kimberly Canetta, Mary Antanios, Heather Guas, Li Wu Hong, Maria Mueller, Neil Shah, and for a 1-year term, Antoinette Evola and Jeff Winston. Mary Peterson could not attend due to a previous commitment and did not submit a bio for our program. Thank you to the community members who wrote questions on our online survey for this evening. This year, the response was outstanding. We had about 60 questions submitted. All of the questions asked tonight were submitted by our community members. The protocol for this evening is as follows. Each candidate will have 15 seconds to explain why they are running. You can read about them in our program as well. They will then have 1 minute and 30 seconds to respond to each question. We have 2 timekeepers who will be holding up the 30-second card and the time's up card. We will maintain a strict 1 minute and 30-second time limit per question per candidate. Each candidate will have the opportunity to respond first to a question. There will be a lightning question, which are yes, no, or a short phrase. And closing is 30 seconds to use as you will. I would like now to introduce to you our moderator for this evening. Mary Beth Bikert is the NJA Associate Director for Government Relations or Communications. And thank you, Mary Beth, for your assistance this evening. And I would also like to ask that you silence your phones and like to remind you to get out the vote on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, are you pulling your name? Chris is going to pull our name to see who starts off the evening.
That's a screw top.
so starting us off tonight will be Jeff Winston. So Mr. Winston, in 15 seconds, please tell us why you are running for school board.
Well, good evening. First off, thank you very much, EBA, Dr. Zimbicki, Ms. Breicher, guests, and Mr. Finnegan. My run is a comeback. I was on the board for 5.5 years. We're coming back to fix the district. I left under very untenable situations, and today's the opportunity for this district now to move forward.
Thank you. Anna Braun, please.
Raise your hand if you're a teacher, support staff, high school graduate, current student, taxpayer, everybody, right, should have their hands up. Whoa, what just happened? Okay. I am here for you to ensure that our schools retain the excellence we expect.
Thank you. Moving on to Ms. Canetta.
Hi. So as some of you may know, I am an East Brunswick School District alumni. My oldest is a graduate. I have an 8th grader at Churchill. I have special needs in Memorial 4th grade. I advocate for all students and teachers and bring a broad perspective that will help drive positive change.
Great, thank you. And Ms. Tanius.
Hi, good evening. I am also an EBHS grad, class of 2001. I know the level of excellence that our students deserve, having graduated and gone straight into a doctorate program. And now with 2 of my kids in the game, I know the level of excellence they deserve and where the improvement is needed.
Thank you. Ms. Squass.
Good evening. As a 34-year public school teacher, my entire life has been about education and students. So I am here for our students and to support the people that are here working with them.
Thank you. Mr. Hong.
So I'm the certified master board member by NJSBA. After 9 years service, the only reason why I want to come back for 3 more years is East Brunswick has a good opportunity to move forward, move to the right direction with Dr. Mammams on board.
Thank you. Ms. Muller.
Good evening. I'm running because I'm a proud product of the East Brunswick school system, and I'm confident that I can use my relevant, student-centered perspective to give back to our district and help the board adapt to a changing generation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shah.
Hello, my name is Neil Shaw, and for the last 21 years, I have been a resident and called East Brunswick home. My daughter graduated from the school district in 2023, and my son is in the high school now. I'm very proud of this town, and I really do want to help elevate the school system back to greatness.
Thank you. And Ms. Savola.
Hi, thank you for inviting me tonight. I'm running for Board of Ed to make sure the curriculum is going to be challenging for students and prepare them for the future. I want to make sure that we have fiscally responsible budgeting that keeps the budget in the classroom and not on waste. And I want to make sure that we are not raising taxes.
Thank you. All right, we're going to start our first question and answer. For each of these questions, you will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to respond. And Ms. Braun, we're going to start with you. As a board member, part of your obligation will be setting goals for the district. What short and long-term goals would you establish for the district, and how would you like to see these goals assessed? How would you work to keep the public informed?
Okay. Setting goals is something that I did always when I was teaching. It really shouldn't be that complicated. Oh, I'm sorry, I keep touching the microphone. My bad. Long and short-term goals. I am extraordinarily disappointed that we don't seem to have a goal for what's going to happen with the high school. When I was sat up here a year ago running for my first term, that was one of the hot button topics. What's going on with the high school? What are we going to do about the TCUs? I have not heard anything. So that is one of the first things that we need to address. And we need to make sure that we see movement on it with our new superintendent. I also expect continuation, improving communication with the community, and transparency. We shouldn't have to find out things via Facebook. We should be finding out what's going on with facts from our superintendent.
Okay. All right. Ms. Canetta.
So my background is in project management, and I am very goal-oriented as well. Action plans, making milestones, communicating proactively to the community, to the administration, to the teachers. Short-term, long-term goals, like Anna just said, high school, we need to come up with a plan for what we're doing with the high school. Also, in terms of communicating to the community, we should have a set goal to continually keep everybody abreast of everything that's happening. And then imbalance of the classrooms in the school district, that's something that I feel like we need to also work on, and reaching a goal, but placing milestones and a plan to spread everybody out.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Tanyas?
So for the short-term goals, I would see that since we have a new superintendent, the primary goal there was to ensure that we have the vision for this district in alignment for our superintendent. I'm all about setting people up for success, including our staff and our students, and especially our superintendent who's going to be leading this organization. That would include our budget, which is coming up sooner rather than later. It'll be here before we know it. And for our long-term goals, that would include our curriculum and to improve our test scores. Those things evolve constantly, and we want to make sure that we're getting ahead of them. As far as keeping the public abreast of what's going on, I've been on the board since July of this year, filling a vacancy. And if you watch those meetings, you will see that I make every effort to make sure that there's discussion that's being had in public. Even if it's something that I know the answer to, I want to ensure that the public is also aware of what's going on and why we're driving decisions like we are, just like we did in our recent superintendent meeting.
Thank you. Ms. Squas?
Good evening. I would say for short-term goals, they remain consistent for me always for the district. I want to make sure that we are monitoring and ensuring student success, both academically and for mental health, which means to evaluate this, we need to stay in contact with our students. Has this education given them the foundation that they need to move forward in what they choose to pursue? Not necessarily a four-year school, but each student should feel successful coming from our educational background. For long-term goals, like everyone else, we need to be moving on the high school. And most importantly, we need to get the 9th grade to the high school. They're missing opportunities by not being there. And there's so much more we could do if we had the 9th grade there. But I think the main thing is that we need to go to the public with a great deal of information about the possibilities for a new high school. The public wants solid information, they want that communicated, and they want to know. And I think the public needs to be given the choice for a referendum. And how to communicate this, I think with Dr. Maman, she is the type of person who wants to talk, and I think we need to have more small town hall meetings like at the elementary schools with her so people can ask the questions they want to ask, and the board can come back to them with the answers that they deserve.
Thank you. Mr. Hong?
So as a board member, my goal will be assisting our new superintendent to know the unique need, value, strengths of East Brunswick. And I will work closely with her to do a thorough evaluation or audit of our curriculum and financial system, ensure they meet the highest standard, and help our new superintendent to develop short-term or long-term, maybe 3 months, 6 months, and 3 years goal, and hold her accountable, and helping her to hold her team, entire team accountable. Again, as the new high school, and we need to come up with a actionable plan for a 4 years high school, where the high school is a community decision, either build a new one or renovate the current one. But the board must work immediately.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw, Ms. Mueller.
First off, I just want to say how excited I am for our new superintendent, Dr. Maman. I think that for the board, our first short-term goal should be to help Dr. Maman be more familiar with the school district and understand the culture of East Brunswick more. I think this can be done through her visiting the schools to understand where teachers and students are currently at. This way, she can effectively think of ideas of how we can improve support for our teachers, education support staff, and students. In terms of long-term goals, I do believe that we have to set goals that are both challenging yet achievable achievable. And as a board member, I'll do everything I can to set more clear feedback to help Dr. Maman carry her vision for improving the East Brunswick school system. I also believe that plans for a new high school or the current renovation of the high school should be discussed as well. But most importantly, I want more community input because the community is the one who is affected by the schools and they deserve to have a say in what goes on. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shah.
My short-term goals and long-term goals revolve around results-driven leadership. This one cannot be optional. If we're serious about improving our schools, we need more than polished presentation and lofty mission statements. We need clear, measurable goals. For the superintendent, goals tied to outcomes, not just optics. Benchmarks, deadlines, accountability, no more vague talk, just results. We believe leadership should be held to the same high standards we ask our students. That means showing your work, meeting your deadlines, and owning your outcomes. Every time, if you're managing one of the largest budgets in the county and shaping decisions that impact every student, teacher, parent, and taxpayer, you should be reporting progress. And that's what we will be looking for, result-driven leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Savola.
Hi, thank you. Short-term goals would be extremely simple. You need to have straight communication with your district. Important changes like a 15-minute delay in a school opening shouldn't have come from a Facebook post. It should have been coming directly from the superintendent. So I'm going to express that to Dr. Maman and let her understand that our district does a lot better when they know a lot more. Long-term goals would be pretty much to set her up for what we expect from her as a superintendent. We are doing really well with NJSLA. We're not going to have that anymore, but just because we did 66% doesn't mean that we want to keep it there. So I want to know what she's going to do to create a higher goal for herself and for our students. The more challenging their curriculum will be, the more successful they can be, and then we'll be able to continue having excellent education in East Brunswick.
Thank you. And Mr. Winston, we're going to end this question with you.
So I appreciated all the answers of the fellow candidates up here. Take a time out. Our job is to assure that the district runs well, not to run the district. A lot of these candidates just gave you great answers if they were interviewing for the role of superintendent. The superintendent comes to the board with what they see to be the necessity to make this district better. We then discuss, compromise, negotiate, and then come to a consensus, and that consensus results in delivering an edict to our one employee, and that's the superintendent. For the public and transparency, you deserve something, and something that culturally has been absent from this board for at least 10 years. Give you an example. We use the high school as an example. If our superintendent truly believes the high school is a priority, my goal is to have our superintendent list the 5 top priorities that they want to get accomplished. Those priorities will be published on the district site. In that publishing will be deliverable dates, measurement dates, and accountability. It'll be crystal clear at each meeting that a superintendent's report will not only consist of what's achieved in academics this week or how beautiful a snow report was, it's going to be the progress that has been made on the commitments and priorities to move this district forward. I will tell you right now, this district is in a horrible trajectory. The priority that I'm going to ask of Dr. Maman immediately in walking through this door is, first of all, recognize the problem. If you can't see it, you can't fix it.
Thank you very much. And we're going to move on to the next question, which some of you have already touched upon. We're going to be starting with Ms. Canetta. How would you resolve the situation with the trailers at Churchill Junior High School and concerns about the need for a new or renovated high school?
I think it has to be a joint effort. Obviously, we would have to talk to the superintendent to see what she feels about our district and where we are with everything. But we also need to communicate with the community as well, just because they have the children who are going into the trailers and the high school, and there's also the budget and a lot of things, a lot of different moving variables here. So to be able to have those conversations with the superintendent as well as the community to see what we can do together, I think is probably the best way.
Thank you. Ms. Tanney.
So I actually suggested this when the trailers were being put in, but I said, why are the trailers going to Churchill? Why don't they go to the high school? It seems like that would solve a multitude of problems, including the fact that our test scores for the ninth graders are not being included in the high school, and that's what drags them down so much in our ratings. So my first thing would be to say, let's move those trailers over to the high school, at least temporarily. We also need clearer numbers, because when I went back to look, there were no actual demographics given of how many students there actually are at Churchill. There are empty classrooms from what I understand, so I'm not sure why they needed to be there in the first place. So that would be a clear goal that would need to be done immediately. And as far as a new high school, we need a new high school. However, my understanding is also that when that dollar amount was put in for how much it would cost, that was a wish list of everything we could possibly have, a pool, a dome, everything. So we would need to reassess that to see what do we actually need and what would the cost of that be in order to make it more realistic.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Glaus.
I would say to resolve the issue with the TCUs at Churchill, I would like to say that when they first went in, I was strongly in favor of putting them at the high school. I felt that the ninth grade up there as a ninth grade academy would give the ninth graders many advantages that they don't have at Churchill, plus becoming a part of the high school community, plus the impact on our rating within the state as a district because of test scores. There were issues that were brought up. It's a consensus-seeking group, so they are at Churchill. What I would like to do with them in the future, I do not believe that they are easily mobile. They're not, if you have not seen them, they are not trailers per se. But what I would like to do is see them repurposed. A great deal of our budget issues can't just be solved with cuts. They need to be solved with initiative. So I would like to see Dr. Maman come up with ways to use this as more of a revenue source. Could we start a special education small academy and take in tuition students from other surrounding districts? People move here for our special education. Why not use that to our advantage and take tuition students? And as to the high school, as someone who's worked for a very long time in very old high school buildings, I don't think that we can continue to disrespect the taxpayers' money and pour good money after bad. There will continue to be issues, there will continue to be fixes, and I don't think that's how we should be spending our money. We should invest in a better facility that, again, can be used to raise revenue, whether it's an athletic facility that we can rent on the weekend, a bubble, whatever it is that we can do to take the burden off the taxpayer. Thank you
very much. Mr. Hong.
So I was part of the process, in the process for where to put the TCU. My original opinion is to put it in high school, to form a 4-year high school. That will help us to improve our ranking. But unfortunately, majority of members decided to put it in Churchill. As for the new high school, I strongly believe the building is already in the tipping point. So it's not wise to put new money to the old money if the tipping point is there and the return will be small. And additionally, I don't support the idea to the renovation because the high school has a nickname of terminal house. We have more than almost 10 different terminals. If we renovate each section and thinking about the supply chain issue, one section will take maybe more than 2 years to do it. And then, which means our high school student will be spend more than 10 years in the construction zone thinking about the asbestos issues, lead-based paints, and noise, safety. So I don't think it's a good idea, at least my personal opinion, it's not a good idea to renovate the current high school, but the board should take the input from the community because this is a huge project for the entire community.
Thank you.
It's community's decision. Thank you.
Ms. Mueller.
To begin with, the temporary units at Churchill were constructed with the notion that there would be a new high school. Over $1 million was spent both for these trailers or temporary units, and as well as architectural plans that did not proceed further. As a member of the public, it's very difficult for me to give an intelligent answer to this question when it's clear that money was spent without a clear direction. However, I can say that if elected to the board, I'll do whatever I can to ensure that the community is put first at this discussion. The taxpayers and people of East Brunswick have a right to have input on what we do with the high school, whether it's renovate or rebuild. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Shah.
So the question should be, how do you fix something that's easier to kick down the road? That's what's been going on for the last 4 years. What we should be doing is talking to neighboring school districts that are actually putting a process or actually have completed a high school in place. How did they get the money? How did they talk to the community? What did they have to do to talk to the architects? We had a plan in place. We spent $300,000 on architecture plans for the school, but that went down the drain because someone didn't put in the fact that Arthur Street was a county road. These are questions that we all need to take into effect, and when we do our research, when we talk to our neighboring towns, when we're able to have intelligent conversations and not point fingers at each other, that is when we get better as a whole community. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Evola.
Thank you. The worst decision that was ever made in this district was putting the 5th grade students in Hammersholt. They do not belong there. They're mentally unable to deal with that type of a building. There's a lot of children who go through a lot of emotional issues once they're in that building because a lot of the students are coming from smaller schools. The biggest problem that we had was putting the 5th grade there. We were told that there was this influx of students that were coming in, and that's why we needed to open up the high school, and that's why we needed to spend millions of dollars on this TCU, and yet our enrollment has dropped from year to year to year. So before people voted on spending millions of dollars on these TCUs with no direction, they should have been holding the superintendent accountable with a timeline of when these things were going to be done. Now, we have 5th grade students with no playground, playing in parking lots, when they should have been still in their elementary schools. So even though the TCUs can't be picked up and brought to the high school because it's not that mobile, they should have never been placed there in the beginning. They should have been placed at the high school, and the high school students should have been there. That would have put more pressure on the district and on the residents of this town to get those kids into the regular building with the rest of the school. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Winston.
Can I ask you to repeat the question? Because there were many answers given that I don't think actually addressed what I thought you said. Can I get a repeat of the question?
Absolutely. How would you resolve the situation with the trailers at Churchill Junior High School and concerns about the need for a new or renovated high school?
That's what I thought you said. Okay. So to get this right, we have to look back a little bit in history. I'm not going to spend a lot of time there. Folks that are on the board now, particularly President Guast, Vice President Hong, each time a possible referendum could come up was taken off because certain people were running for board, and who wants a $300 million referendum on the ballot when you're up for election? That's all I'm going to say about that. How do we resolve this? Let me tell you something. This is a mess. Next year will be the 5th year, and the 5th year without a plan means the state will start fining us for having trailers on property. If elected, I will highly encourage Dr. Maman to recognize this problem and, to Ms. Evola's point, completely unwind the mess that was created. Trailers were predicated on a high school opening this year. This year. When it was first proposed, interest rates for a loan like that was roughly 1 1/8%. Today, we'd be lucky to touch it under 5. It went from $250 million to a $500 million proposal. That is poor leadership, poor management, and that's what happens when you have a board that doesn't give a superintendent goals, deadlines. There was a mention here, there was a timeline that was worth nothing. Nothing was executed. I would absolutely propose that we unwind what we did, put everybody back where they were. How do we repurpose the TCUs? I think they'd make a great administration building. Let's sell Route 18, and let's see how they like going to and from without a canopy over their head when it snows.
Thank you, Mr. Winston.
You're welcome.
And let's move on to Ms. Braun.
Mr. Winston stole my idea, got there first. Do we really need 760 Route 18 at this point? How many administrators have we already cut? Okay? Now, I've been here since 1987. Back in the olden days, we had administration stationed in different buildings. There's modern technology now that we didn't have back in the 80s and 90s. You can actually see someone's face over a computer screen. So guess what? They don't all need to be in the same place at the same time. Those TCUs, which I never was able to get a completely accurate count of how much they cost. $3 million at least for the foundation, and then another $6 or $7 million we borrowed for the trailers. Now, that's $10 million right down the tubes, another $1 million for an architect. Unacceptable. This will not continue. Whether I'm on the board or not, I'm going to make sure I raise holy heck to see, I'm trying to keep it clean for the kids, to make sure that this does not go on, because this is completely unacceptable. As a teacher, if I did not perform the goals that were set for me, I would have been out. And this is the way that we need to move forward with our new superintendent. She needs to help us, work with us to figure this out.
Thank you very much. And that question certainly did bring up a lot of passion, which leads to the next question, which you're going to love as well. And for that, we are going to start with, with Ms. Tanyas. What are your thoughts on elementary redistricting? If it must be done, what concerns would guide your decision-making, and how do you think it should be achieved? If not, why not?
Thank you.
Sure.
So, yes, I absolutely think elementary redistricting needs to happen. I asked this question of how was this originally decided for us to say which kids go to which school, and I was told that the person who was in charge of that plan literally took out a map and said, these kids go here, these kids go there. There were no actual numbers that were looked at. So, you know, we need to have actual numbers. We can't make decisions that aren't data-driven. My concerns around it obviously are infrastructure, right? Everybody's driving around town and sees what that looks like. Also, I know that it's comfortable for everyone to be in their home school. Everybody wants to be in their neighborhood school. But on the other end of that, we have to look at the equity for our students. I'm hearing things about certain elementary schools. They're not resourced equally. Some schools have more advantages than others, even with the buildings themselves. Not every school has a gym. Why is it fair that some kids have a school with no gym and others don't? Even when they're pulling in the morning, the situations are more chaotic. So those are all concerns I have. Equity is definitely a major driving point for all of this. And as far as how to achieve them, I mean, we've had demographers come in before, but I would like to see actual data in order for us to determine who goes where, and can we keep them as close to their home school as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts on elementary redistricting? If it must be done, what concerns would guide your decision-making? And how do you think it should be achieved? If not, why not?
Well, I absolutely do think that we need to look at redistricting the elementary schools. There are things about it that don't make sense when you look at the maps. As areas were built up, especially, you go out towards the fairgrounds, those developments weren't there when the initial lines were drawn. So we have small pockets of houses that are sending to one school while the neighborhood around them sends to another. It's something that evolved over time, and I think it needs a clean look. I also don't understand why everything on one side of Route 18 practically goes all the way down to Chittick. That is not a neighborhood school. And there are other issues just on the age of the elementary schools. Baum continues to come up. It's a beautiful school. I would like to have my children in a school that had that kind of administrative and staff to child ratio. But that's a building that's going to need work. And my greatest concern about if we need to redistrict for Baum is that the children there be able to move together as a community into another building, because I think the emotional well-being of the students is very important. But I do think we need to look for equity. I think we need to look for the size. Some of the elementary schools have become very large while others are dwindling. I think they need to be created to be more even so that when our students move up, they're more prepared to move into a larger population. Some of the kids are used to a 500 student building, and some are used to something much smaller, and I don't think they're equally prepared. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hong?
The redistricting is a problem. This issue has been talked for a long, long time. In East Brunswick, certain small pocket students can be transferred to be very remote elementary. So this issue must be addressed. But before we're actually doing the redistrict, there are multiple things we have to do. Number one, we need to make sure every school has the needed resource to make parents comfortable that they send their student to that elementary school. Second, we need to make sure we have proper transportation planning. Make sure the transportation safety, efficiency is certain before we're actually doing this, because student safety is the first concern everyone should keep in mind. And with the safety issue, bus fleet, everything is totally considerate, then we can do actually the redistrict our elementary school. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mueller.
I do believe that elementary redistricting is an important topic. Speaking from my personal experience, when I attended Hammarskjöld, a lot of students actually compared the different elementary schools that they went to, and they noticed that some elementary schools had more resources and were considered better than others. I don't think that should happen. I think every elementary school should have equitable resources, and every teacher have the appropriate resources needed for good student learning. And regarding concerns, I do think that bus routing is particularly important. This is because transportation is a large cost of our budget, and I do believe that if we redistrict, we can save money based on planning routes, because certain neighborhoods that might go to different schools could be grouped together, which could save us a lot of money, and especially because we have a pretty a challenging budget issue. But however, I also want to ensure that we do consult the experts, people who know about the different areas in East Brunswick and people who are familiar with the enrollment numbers, because particularly I'm not an expert about this because I'm not on the board, but I want to make it a point that I work with people who are knowledgeable about this, because I think that's what contributes to transparency and progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shah.
Redistricting has been a topic of discussion in East Brunswick for decades, yet a full-scale redistricting effort has not taken place since the early 80s. This should definitely be an early-on goal for our new superintendent. We have a changing landscape with brand new apartments coming up, a new development plan for the mall. We're going to have a lot more children entering our school system. This is not going to be a short-term fix. It's a strategic investment in the future of East Brunswick, and we do definitely need a plan. And that is one of the reasons that a good, strong board understands that they do not guide policy, and they do not enforce policy. They have one employee, and that is the superintendent. And that superintendent should be coming into her job on December 1st with a plan, and this should be one of the main plans that she comes up with. How do we reinvent the East Brunswick school system? How do we make sure that every child, every teacher, every taxpayer is getting the full benefits of living here in East Brunswick? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Avola.
Thank you. The new superintendent will be starting on December 1st, and it's going to be her responsibility to reach out to the administrators of each school and find out what they think is best for the students. There were students in my children's classrooms that they couldn't have play dates with outside because these kids lived all the way where Warnsdorfer was, and then those students couldn't make friends with their neighbors because those students were in Warnsdorfer. So when you look at the map, the way it's set up, it does not make sense at all. And with the new apartments coming in, and you do have an influx of students that are coming in, whether it's going to be from kindergarten to 4th grade, they all can't fit in Lawrenceburg. If you just look at the 2024 numbers, Lawrenceburg had 362 students, while Memorial had 408. And then you have Bound, who had 201, and Frost 383. The schools are not evenly distributed, but is it because we just have more residents with children in one specific area, or is it because they're just being redistricted into the wrong schools because of the way the map was set up? I don't know. That's going to be something that the superintendent has to do when she starts here, and I would start with definitely speaking to the principals of those schools and seeing what they think is best. We definitely want to make sure that when those apartments do bring the children in, that they're not going to have to go to 5 schools away, with the bus just because they fit in a different school. Everything has to make sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Winston.
Thanks. Redistricting, I'm going to spoil the ending. Everybody's going to hate it. All right, redistricting is a very, very difficult thing. It becomes roughly a 5-year problem before it straightens itself out. All of that being said, we haven't had redistricting in this district since the mid-1980s. While the apartments certainly are a changing landscape, where are all the cows? Those are now all apartment complexes or townhouses too. I'm looking around the room, I see a bunch of realtors, and then I see around the room, I see 3 of our 5 council people. Redistricting is a larger issue than just saying where you're going to bus everybody. We need to form a relationship again between township and district so we know what is happening. Redevelopment, I'm not against it. I think it's great. The mayor uses the word blighted often. I think that's a nice word. Mine's a little worse, but I'm from the early 80s. It's a disaster, what was on Route 18, and I do believe the improvement is there. But you can't be silent. You can't act in a silo on this township when you're bringing in this construction, recreate demographic numbers to suit your narrative, when in fact most of it's happening in Lawrencebrook. You're going to flood that school. If you're wrong, say it's 150 kids, using Ms. Evola's numbers, that's half the size of Lawrencebrook. We may be talking about a wrong school at this point. Maybe we should be building an elementary school, but we don't know. The communication's not there. The cooperation is not there. Fix that, and I think you can address redistricting in a much easier way. You're welcome.
All right. Ms. Braun.
Yes, during budget season, I asked, what's going on with redistricting? Do we have results of a redistricting study? And I was told, oh, that's in the works. Well, when are we going to get those results? This was months ago. We need to take care of this as soon as possible. Now, one thing that I'm hearing from people, closing bound, not closing bound. Absolutely not, as far as I'm concerned. In 1983, the Board of Education suggested that we close, wait for this, Lawrencebrook, Memorial, and Irwin. But yet there were new developments going in, and parents, rightly so, rose up and said, no, this is unacceptable. So eventually they did close Irwin, which is almost laughable if you think about it now. And guess what happened? We rented it. Well, we paid, right, to get it fixed up. Rented it. 3 years later, we needed it back. What a waste of money and time. So before anything is done with Bound, we better make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row, because I do not want to see past mistakes going forward. And I understand how emotional redistricting can be. When I was a kid, which is a very long time ago, I got redistricted from Warrenstoffer to Frost because Colonial Oaks was being built.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Canetta.
So with the changing community structure comes along with redistricting. I think class sizes for learning is important. Teachers holding 20+ students is stressful. Like Jeff said, it is a long-term fix, but it has to start sometime. We can't just keep kicking it down the road and thinking about it, but not actually really thinking about it and possibly, doing research on how effective it would be. Some things that I would probably think about ahead of this would be in terms of transportation. I go to my child goes to Memorial, and we already have routing issues with bus drivers and combining routes and everything like that. Transportation is huge that we have to sort out, but we also need to build relationships with our town just to know what's happening with all the new buildings that we're having and the incoming people that are coming to East Brunswick. But this all should be data-driven. We have to look at all our assets. We have to discuss it with the superintendent and evaluate the situation.
Thank you. All right, we're going to begin question 5 with Ms. Glaus. How will you use your role as a board member to advocate for the needs of special education students?
Thank you. So for the first probably 23 22 years I was a teacher. I was a special education teacher. And before I was that, I worked at Daisy in East Brunswick, where I developed my passion for education. Actually, prior to that, I thought I was going to go to law school. And then I met an East Brunswick student and everything changed. As a board member, I think we have the obligation to make sure that we're not just providing what the law requires, but that we're really looking at what's best for students. We need to provide the least restrictive environment. We need to keep our students in district as much as possible. As a board member, that's important in two different ways. The cost of out-of-district placement is phenomenally high, and they can change the cost of that throughout the year. There's no legislation that forces them to keep where they were. They can tell us midway through, they're raising it. But the other reason is more profound, which is we need to keep our students in their neighborhood schools with their peers, if at all possible. They should have the same access to everything that every other child has. The other thing I think as a board member, my role is to make sure that I keep active communication with the CPAG organization. Those parents are doing a phenomenal job growing it and the support for each other, but they also offer a lot to the district. And as a board member, I think it's our obligation to work with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hong.
So to help students with special needs is legally required. It's not negotiable. Even the school districts spend all kind of resources to help those students. It's legally required. As board member, how can I help those students' need? So during the budget season, Dr. Pan did a search, indicated that state owns us a lot of money for special need students. Actually, for last 3 years, each time I had meeting in Trenton, I always lobby to full fund special education program. For example, current program, we don't have any bargaining power, not at all. Even when we send the students out, they send us the bill, we have to pay, no negotiable power at all on the school side. So I have been lobbying that we must change. The school district should have a bargaining power, and that's the best way to help our students without extra fund, and the school still doing very good. I'm proud of our staff for the school special education, but as board member, I will keep lobbying additional fund from the state level, help our students to achieve next level. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mueller.
To begin with, I believe that East Brunswick does have an adequate special education program. For example, we have a child support team that meets with parents and teachers to ensure that every student who has the special education program has the appropriate resources needed to grow and thrive. However, similar to what Mr. Hong stated, the state has been cutting our funding for students with special education needs. I think this is wrong. The state should be giving us the necessary support we need to support our most vulnerable students. And if elected to the board, I'll lobby for increased funding at the state level, and I'll work with our state legislature to advocate for the funds that we deserve. Moreover, if elected to the board, I want to work with our superintendent and to encourage her to work more with our child support team to ensure that she has a clearer perspective on what teachers are currently doing to support students and parents, and what more can be done to give them the resources they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shah.
So as Mr. Hong said, special need is required by law. And as a board member, we need to understand that that means a lot to a lot of different people. And so all the children who need help need to ensure that they have proper evaluators evaluating their special circumstance. As a board of trustee for fast break basketball and buddy ball, I have a unique opportunity to see how an encouragement, a proper program, and the ability for these children to flourish. So where do we get the money? Are we well prepared? Is our budget established to ensure that we don't have these pitfalls, and that as the year goes on, we're not getting surprised? Our special needs community needs us as a community to support them, and we need to support the schools, the teachers, and the children, and the taxpayers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Avola.
Thank you. The numbers on the Department of Education website as of 2023, we have 18.5% of special education students coming into East Brunswick. We're attracting special education students because we do have an amazing program. You can tell which parents don't have special education children on this panel because they're speaking as if this is something that's so amazing for all these parents. I put a Google form out for all of my supporters and whoever stumbled across it to fill that out. I cannot tell you the amount of parents who feel they're not being heard when it comes to their children's special education, whether it's a teacher who's not prepared to handle the type of needs that this child has, whether they're outnumbered in the classroom, whether they've been saying, my child has this, and the district's telling them, no, they don't. And they are giving you all of the proof that this child needs more help and the district's not going to do it. So I'm telling you, when it comes to special education, we need to make sure that our parents know that the number one thing that they can do is advocate for their child, and they should never feel like they're being annoying when they're doing that. We need to make sure that we need to make sure the superintendent knows that our special education parents do not feel heard, and that's the first priority she should have for them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Winston.
My time on the board, I learned one thing when it comes to special education, is that the board doesn't know anything about special education. And what I took away from that comes from a personal experience, having an IEP child while my child was in school. And there's nothing more degrading than having to fight for the advocacy of a child, knowing that they're right, but you can't help but feeling that the conversation is being led not by need, but by budget. Okay, and that's not how it's supposed to work. Our most special community, I've been enlightened to more than I could ever imagine by the work that my wife does when working with sensory art programs for the most special of our community. And working with area advocates and knowledgeable people far beyond my purview of knowledge, like Audrey Weiner and her beautiful daughter Diana, as they teach the rest of us one thing on the issues. But more importantly, we have community experts. Everybody loves to throw around the phrase, it takes a village, it takes a village. We got a village, folks. We don't have to go to the state for budgeting. We don't have to sit up here and wave a flag and pretend we know what we're talking about. We have community members. Our platform point number 18, you can scan the card outside, says engage local experts and community members for insight and committee involvement. The answers are in this town. They are not on a member of 9 board members. Even with my IEP experience, I don't know nearly enough, but the answers are in this room right now.
Thank you. And Ms. Braun.
Yes, I have experience with a child with autism. His particular diagnosis was not available when he was born, and he went through his entire school career, kind of off to the side. Something wasn't quite right. Couldn't recognize what it was until really it was too late to help him. And I still beat myself up over that. How could I as a teacher not realize that there was something wrong with my kid? But there was, which is why this means a lot to me personally. We need to invest in out-of-district placements for students where it is the most appropriate place for them to be. By giving them early interventions, we can then bring them back when they're ready to be in our local schools, when that is the best option. I'm familiar with some of the schools with the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey. My husband works for 2 of those schools. I've been in those schools. They're very different than being, like, for example, in Churchill School with 2,000 kids, and you have children with auditory disorders that can't handle commotion, noise, overstimulation, and we have them in a building that size. Now, another thing about ESCNJ, they post their prices on their website the year before.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Yep.
And on to Ms. Canetta, please.
So best environment and least restrictive for our child to learn. That is the goal for our special needs community. I am part of the CPEG group. It's amazing. I'm glad to be a part of it. I am also a CPEG liaison who helps parents navigate the system and to make people aware of the different resources that we have in the community, so that they can get the help and the support that they and their children need. Yes, it is mandated. That's always been my answers for every question I have about special needs, the special needs program here. Oh yes, it's mandated. I really would like to ask for transparency on how the budget for special needs is being used. We need to make sure that the program is not driven by budget, but by our children's needs. So I would ask Dr. Maman to review our current programs to make sure administration is visiting the classes of our special needs students to make sure that everything is going well and that the students are in the appropriate places where they can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Tanyas, we're going to close it out with you.
Thank you. So, I've heard this over and over again that, yes, this is mandated by law, but with all due respect, East Brunswick has never been about doing the bare minimum. East Brunswick needs to go above and beyond, and that's what I've been advocating for. As a member of the PTA President's Council, we are also involved with CPEG, so we hear what the concerns are there. And I've been speaking to a lot of community members, and this needs to be a community-wide effort. In fact, I myself have gone to Trenton to advocate for this. I've had a personal meeting with Senator Gopal. He had a bill on the table to cover 100% of special education needs across the state at the state level. And he said to me, Marianne, where is East Brunswick? Where is our community to go and advocate? Because other towns were putting people on buses and going to Trenton to advocate. So while there's so much that can be done here in East Brunswick, that bill sat there and it went from 100% to, I believe now it's down to 60%, and it's still sitting there. There's something that is said for us that has to be done at a statewide level as well, because our special education needs, if it is a budget issue, can be addressed at that level. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to question 6. Mr. Hung, we're going to start with you. This question has 3 points we would like you to touch on. The past 2 years have been very difficult for East Brunswick schools, with multi-million-dollar budget deficits leading to difficult decisions and some devastating cuts for students and staff. In anticipation of the likelihood of another large shortfall this year, how would you address this issue as a board member? What would you try to change? What programs would you reduce, eliminate, or preserve at all costs?
Well, it's a very big question. Before I answer that, in Trenton, I personally met Senator Gopal 3 times last year about special need students, because I'm the NJSBA Board of Director. Each time I went there earlier. So I have multiple chances to talk to him about the budget. Yes, the last 2 years, East Brunswick was hit very badly, and we cut programs, we cut stuff. For me, I anticipate we'll get another 3% cut next year. And another scaring factor is the inflation is very high, the utility bill is flying, and I believe everyone senses the pain already. So how to deal with this one? There's two things. Number one, I will still keep lobbying for more money. I have been talking about funding formula. I keep telling Trenton people that current formula is not right. The statewide common factor and the 1 year community value and the 1 year community income is not proper for East Brunswick. So they need to do a better job to give more details. For example, the state can be divided in Central, South, North Jersey, and they got different formula. And second, I don't think we should cut any teaching program, teachers or programs. The way we should go.
Thank you. We'll come back to your closing statements. Ms. Mueller.
To begin with, budget deficits are never easy, and no one wants to see programs that they hold dear to be reduced. Now, in light of this, I do think that there is an optimistic approach we can be going about. For example, I do think that we can think of creative ways to resolve the issue. For example, I noticed at the high school during the summertime that the lights are often on, yet the building is unoccupied. Why not try to raise more revenue through introducing summer programs for our students? That way we can retain more students here and give them necessary academic support. Additionally, we could try and raise money through other means, for example, by strengthening our alumni network. We have a vast group of alumni. We have fantastic students who have gone on to achieve great things, and I think by strengthening the alumni network, we can create more, we can receive more donations, and we can also receive more mentorship for our current students and help them become more adaptable to the job market. Additionally, in terms of reducing programs, I don't believe we should try and reduce programs that we hold dear. I think that it's important that we try and cut other costs. For example, we could try to save money on maintenance costs such as electricity, trying to reduce electricity while being more sustainable. We might also be able to save money by changing bus routes slightly to save gasoline costs and the amount of time spent driving students. And most importantly, I think the root of the issue is at the state level. If elected to the board, I'm very committed to ensuring that East Brunswick is put first and that we can lobby for more money. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw.
So the first question we should all be asking everybody is, who does it benefit? Who does it benefit? Let that sit in for a second. When you talk about budgets, when you talk about preserving programs, when you talk about the school system itself, it should be always about who does it benefit. Does it benefit the children if we cut teachers? No. Does it benefit the taxpayers? Does it benefit administration? These are questions that are not being talked about. Mr. Hong just said that he feels that the budget is going to fall again. That's the most scariest thing I heard up here today. An actual sitting board member feels that we're going to be behind, when we should be thinking about this now, not in January, not waiting for the business administrator to come out and say again, well, the state, they cut our funding again. No, where's the backup plan? Where is the institutional knowledge of everybody that's been on the board for multiple years that have gone through this? They should be screaming that the budget needs to be a year-long process, not a throw up the hands and talk about it only during this time. We scare the town, we make some cuts, we rip the bandage off, and then all of a sudden people forget, they pay a higher tax rate, and we move on to next year. That's not how it works. Any corporation in America, the accounting department would be fired.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shaw. We're moving on to Ms. Avola.
Hi, can you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely. The past 2 years have been very difficult for East Brunswick schools, with multi-million-dollar budget deficits leading to difficult decisions and some devastating cuts for students and staff. In anticipation of the likelihood of another large shortfall this year, how would you address the issue as a board member? What would you try to change? What programs would you reduce, eliminate, or preserve at all costs?
Thank you.
Sure.
I just wanted to make sure I heard that correctly. That's why, so I was correct. They already announced 2 weeks ago that we're going to lose 3% next year, so I don't know why anybody doesn't know that that's happening. That's happening. They already said it. We're losing 3% of state funding already, without anything. My problem is we're always going to cut programs that are going to directly impact children. Music, art, sports, turn Hammersholt into an elementary school. But when are we going to start looking at the top-heavy administration that we have in this town? If you want to start comparing us to other districts, because this is what they did when they were trying to remove it. Well, this one doesn't have this sport. This one doesn't have that music. Well, if we're going to start looking at these things, let's look at the administrative. They don't have all these people that are making $5 million. So but let's start looking over there before we start cutting programs. I don't want to come back to Hammersholt with 700 people and my poor daughter being the first student that had to beg for her school to remain the same, or for the sports kids to not be stuck in the middle of the street in the summertime so that they can actually be together as a team for 9th grade sports. I don't think that we should be taking music away. We are literally known for music. So no, I'm not ever going to vote on anything that's going to directly impact students, which means it's not going to impact the classroom, which means it's going to protect the teachers. We want to start looking this year at something, we're going to start looking at the top. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Winston.
Well, I love this topic, 29 years in finance. I was waiting for it all night, so thank you.
We're glad we could help you.
So, You used the word, what would you change? And the first thing I thought of was the Serenity Prayer, which I did Google, because the things we can change, the things we can't, and then have the wisdom to know the difference. Changing the school funding formula is a very difficult process. We're talking about laws and things like that. It's been hit on, and I think it's worth emphasizing. How we are not having these conversations now is astonishing. We have an accounting department that is so large and so antiquated in their software that a blip a few years ago because nobody typed 3 followed by 6 zeros in an empty Excel spreadsheet caused a $3 million error in the district, which is the District 8. There's software that does that. I have the software that does that. Everybody in this room. We have to be cutting the costs first. The only way to solve any budgeting issue, you can either decrease your costs or increase your revenue. We have amazing facilities in this town. We have the JM Pack, they have the dance folks coming in there, and we have other facilities around town. We better start looking at sponsorships. We should be forming think tanks along with other districts and using shared services to buy commoditized items to lower our costs. Where's the creativity? Where's South Brunswick, Old Bridge, all the other places that buy reams of paper every year? It sure would be nice if we did a group purchase. Every little bit counts. It's thousands and thousands. My time's up.
Yes, it
This is my subject. I'll answer it. Call me all day. We'll talk.
All righty. And Ms. Braun.
I never want to go through another budget season like we just went through. March the 3rd, we sat down at the dais. We were handed a list of 77 cuts to choose from to balance the budget. I didn't have 5 minutes to flip through to see what was on the next page, which I found ridiculous. And I don't want to hear, oh, this is the way it's always been done. Guess what? We can't do things the way they have always been done. How in the world could the board come to any kind of consensus when we didn't know what was on the next page? I asked, how many teachers are we cutting? Oh, I don't have those numbers. You don't have those numbers. You don't know how many people you're cutting from this budget? There were plans to cut half of the music staff for the band, orchestra, and chorus. I asked, how many kids are being serviced by the Hammarskjöld Band? Oh, we don't have those numbers. How many are being serviced by the Church Hill Orchestra? Oh, we don't have those numbers. How many kids are involved in 4th grade band and orchestra? We don't have those numbers. Well, guess what? Fortunately, I did have those numbers. And what was being proposed was 2 teachers for 500 kids. This is unacceptable, to be looking at programs as simply budget line items.
Thank you very much.
I'll come back to this
Ms.
later.
Canetta.
So we need to continue pushing in Trenton. We need to communicate to our neighboring townships who are having similar issues and lobby together in Trenton to do something about this. But then locally, we need to work with our administration, with our teachers, with our community leaders to come up with a solution together. We can't do this isolated. It's a problem that we're facing together, and we need to solve it together. It's not something that we can do right away. It's, for this year, we need to be able to plan ahead, have actionable plans with goals, and not wait to hear about how much is being cut before we communicate to the community that, okay, we have to think about this now. It should always be on the agenda with deliverables and, updates as to where we are in preparation for possible budget cuts. I think the biggest thing is communication across the board between community, teachers, administration, and the township. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Tanyus.
Thank you. So the one thing that everyone should know about the S2 funding formula is this was introduced in 2018, and we were told this is going to be phased in over 7 years from 2019 to 2025, which is now. So although nobody could have anticipated, in all fairness, how drastic this was going to be, if you know there's a storm coming, you should start planning for that. So I think the word there is anticipate. This wasn't planned for properly. No matter how much it was an undertaking, it still should have been on our radar as, hey, this is coming, and you shouldn't be spending money the way you are. That's one thing. As far as what I'm willing to change or compromise on, I'll tell you what I'm not willing to compromise on, and it's the education and the mental health of our students and our teachers. If you watch the last Board of Ed meeting, I don't believe that you can cram 20-something kids into a classroom with one adult and call that education. Respectfully, that is not education. And if you see, I asked for that policy to be pulled, and it was honored. So that is one thing I'm not going to compromise on, the mental health or the education of our students or our staff.
Thank you very much. Ms. Klaus.
Well, the past 2 years have been beyond challenging. And what I've learned is that it has been a learning process. As president this past year, and based on the board's consensus, we moved the budget process into the public. Was that providing total clarity? No, it is a confusing process, but we tried as hard as we could to involve the community, because that brings me to what programs would I preserve at all cost? Truthfully, I don't think it matters what programs I want to preserve at all costs. I think what matters is what the community values. When we made changes and the budget was suggested about music and the Hammarskjöld setup, which I did not love, but when the community came out and spoke, we sat for hours listening and asked the superintendent and the administrative team to come back. We want something different. We want something better. It's not about what I want. I'm just one board member, but I'm here to represent the community, and we need to listen to what the community wants. The other thing is that Dr. Maman said when we were talking to her, show me your budget and I'll show you what you value. I think part of this needs to be, she needs to go out to the community and meet and decide what the community values and spend that time listening as we develop. The budget started being developed in September. We are not waiting until February. We know the cuts are coming, but we want teachers in the classrooms. We want children given the best possible care and education, and we need to make smart changes. If that means sports teams that don't have competition eliminated, that may be a smart change.
Thank you very much. Ms. Mueller, we're going to start question 7 with you. Student mental health has become an ever more pressing issue, while federal funding for school counselors and training has been slashed. How would you address this as a board member? What do you think the district should do in the short and longer term to foster the social, emotional, and psychological health of students?
To begin with, East Brunswick. To begin with, East Brunswick does do a good job of, first off, it does publish a list of free mental health resources on its website. But I do agree that further action could be done. I do believe that mental health is important, and it's important that we establish the talks about mental health at a younger age level. I think to begin with, students should be taught in the elementary school levels that their mental health matters, and it's important that our students are both physically and mentally well. I think one part of the mental health crisis stems from pressure with tests. Given the limited funding, I think we can encourage teachers to implement more growth mindsets within our students. For example, I want them to tell our students that it's okay to make mistakes, because a lot of students are hyperfixed on perfectionism. I also want our teachers to tell students that everyone learns at a different pace, which is important because some students feel pressured to compare themselves to others. I want East Brunswick also to destigmatize talks about mental health. It's important that students feel safe when speaking about their issues, and I believe that more community engagement is also needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shah.
Mental health in our children is very important. As parents, we may not always see the progress that a child might be having or some of the issues that they have in school. And I had mentioned this before, but the school has to be a safe place. And what does that mean to the children, the parents, as well as the teachers? It means a place where a child can go and learn, grow, and express themselves. Mental health is very, very important. We need to ensure that, as part of the question that was asked before, preserving at all costs, We need to preserve those programs that will actually support the mental health of our children. 25, 30 years ago, mental health was not even on the radar. It is now in this generation, and we need to support that. We need to learn more about that. We need to educate our parents. We need to educate our children about expressing themselves and ensuring that they are focused not only on their academics, but also on their ability to function as good humans as they get closer to graduation. And that only comes when you have a very strong mental health. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Savola.
Thank you. Students cannot succeed if they're struggling academically. And that is a big problem when it comes to emotional issues that the children are having in school. I agree with Maria, especially with my own children. Test anxiety is a real thing. And when you roll out an Envision program, which for those who don't know, Envision was one of the math curriculums that we rolled out right after the lockdown. We did not have proper training for the teachers, and the teachers were learning along with the students, and a lot of students in this district struggled. Third grade was not a normal back to school year for them, so we had 300-400 students who were doing poorly, and a lot of the students suffered with self-esteem. They had, I had to do positive affirmations with my own daughter every morning to make her know that she's not stupid, that she is smart, that she's just struggling with this math. And when you're putting this type of pressure on children because you make irresponsible decisions because you don't have enough money in your budget to roll out a program, what you are doing directly impacts children. So yes, there is such a thing as test anxiety, and it's a lot of the times it has to do with the way the curriculum was taught. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Winston.
Okay, mental health issues is near and dear to me and was while I was on the board. Mental health is a symptom of greater problems. It's the end result. We have HIB issues in the school right now. We have home and social pressures. We have hate speech, prejudice in the schools, sexual identity concerns. All of these need to be approached directly and then dealt with. I sat next to Dr. Figueroa when they shut the schools down in 2020. And that day they said, we're going to be shutting the schools. And the board was talking about how are we going to get the laptops, how are we going to do this, how are we going to do that. And I turned to Dr. Figueroa, I said, we've just entered into a mental health crisis that's going to last for years. And that's exactly what's happened. And now we're starting to come to the last third of that transitional period. We need to change our culture. I had asked at that time that every guidance counselor start with their rosters, start from A to Z, and ask 3 questions. How are you doing? How are things at home? Is there anything we can do? And that was rejected. It was rejected by the board, most of whom are no longer on it as a result of a lot of the pressure that my group in this town put in. It is a cultural change. We have to reevaluate what our value system is and how do we approach problems. First thing is you need to identify it, and then you need to adjust to it. We need to be better at managing the mental health of our students now more than ever. The world is a tough place.
Thank
we
you.
have to be there for it.
Ms. Braun.
I find it kind of ironic when we worry about students' mental health, which is so critical. They can't be successful when they're feeling stressed, when they have no way of relieving that stress. And yet we were ready to cut arts. For a lot of kids, that is what they cling to. That is the thing that they find passion in. We were ready to cut sports teams. Again, a place where kids have a sense of belonging, something that helps mental health instead of hindering it. But what have we done recently? We've increased class sizes, which certainly does not help anyone as far as their mental health. We need more revenue to come in. That's why we talked about creative solutions, like turning 760, into a parent-paid preschool. Every new roof we put on needs to have solar panels. We asked about corporate sponsorships and were ignored. So there are things in the budget that can be adjusted and changed. And by no means should we be pulling anything more from our students. We have programs in place for a reason, because we need them. when you look at the number of kids we have in our schools and compared to the number of guidance counselors, it's absurd. The guidance counselors and other special services people can't get to everyone the way they should.
Thanks very much. Ms. Canetta.
So mental health is important. We need to have the best environment for our children to learn, to thrive, resources for the teachers to be able to identify students who are struggling and how to navigate through that. But it's not just the teacher's responsibility, but also the parents. It's a joint effort between schools and home. As an example, my older son developed anxiety from math a couple of years ago, and I noticed that at home and addressed it with the teacher, and she took care of him, observed him on a daily basis just to make sure he was getting the support he needed to overcome this. So between the teachers and the parents at home, I think it has to be a joint effort to help our kids through this.
Great, thank you. Ms. Tanius.
Thank you. So we talk about social emotional learning like it's supposed to be some separate class, as opposed to it should be a part of our entire curriculum. It should be a part of everything. I'll go back to class size for a second. As a parent, I know that what energy is contagious. When I'm feeling something, my kids are going to feel it. If our educators are stressed, how do we expect them to pour from an empty cup? We really need to realize that social emotional learning is not just for our students, it's across the board, and that's why class size is such a big deal to me. Our kids can only be mentally healthy when our educators are mentally healthy. This shouldn't be that foreign of a concept. We can't treat mental health like a luxury, and if we don't understand that, we really don't understand education, and that is something that I will continue to advocate for. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Klaus.
I maybe want to go a little bit of a different direction, but I want to thank the teachers for forming the relationships that they form, because mental health is not just over here with counselors or over here with social and emotional learning. It really starts with the relationships between the staff and our students to create that trust that students reach out. My children have been a benefit for it, and I am deeply grateful. The existing board has discussed, can we become a mental health provider? Can we expand our services at a much larger level? If we were redesigning a high school, would that become a component? And the answer was resoundingly yes. If we were redesigning a high school or building new, what could we do to become a larger provider? The other thing is that we need as a board to be very responsive. If we've made a mistake, we need to be able to evaluate and redo. We brought in ESS, which was an outside provider. Seemed like a great plan. So many more counselors and therapists available to our children. How could that be wrong? But the feedback was, even though it seemed like a great solution, our students weren't able to form the same relationships. The counselors were shifting. We needed in-house people that they could create long-term relationships with, and they did. The other thing is communication. We have so many programs. When Student Services has its meetings, it's outstanding. The student mentoring and sources of strength to the lower grades, we have so much, and the public doesn't get to see it. So we've been talking with the Student Services Committee about how do we get that information out to the broader public, so communication from the district to the public, but also in the other direction, I think a focus has to be communication from the community to the school.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Hong, you're going to be the last candidate to answer this question.
Thank you. Mental health is the foundation of our students' performance. It's the foundation of our students' future. The school should put whatever resource needed to help to educate our students' social, emotional learning. So this takes entire community, not just school teachers, counselors, entire community, including their parents' involvement. We need to work together. First, identify which student has mental health issue. This is not just, for example, one teacher realized this student didn't submit assignment. Another teacher identified this student coming late. Since the teachers need exchange their information and they work with the parents, find out what's really going on with this student. So mental health is not a school task, it's entire community's task. Working together, we can help our students perform well for the academic, for the athletic, for their future, everything. Without mental health, I don't think they can achieve anything. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to compliment you all because of your efficiency in your answers. We have time for another question. So we're going to start with Mr. Shah. East Brunswick has seen increased difficulty in filling vacancies for both certified teaching staff and support staff, combined with increasing attrition of veteran staff. What would you do to attract and retain the high-quality staff that East Brunswick deserves? How would you address low staff morale?
That's actually one of my favorite questions. Where I work, we actually had that issue. And we created we didn't create it, it was brought into, it's called a quarterly pulse survey. And that quarterly pulse survey is what the first thing I would do. I would have it come in at the beginning of the school year, and we would send out a survey. It would be anonymous, and it would be completely viewed by independent people that do not have any association with the teachers, with the administration. And they would aggregate the information that was collected in these surveys by the teachers, the students, as well as the staff. And they would take that, and then they would provide that to the board for them to look at. And then the board itself would take it to their one employee and say, these are the goals, these are the things that the teachers, the staff, and the students want. How can we make this happen? So we'd have it at the beginning of the school year, we'd have it in the middle of the school year, and then we will look at the way that the results happen, and did we achieve what we set out at the beginning of the year. These surveys, they work really well because they only work really well is if they're anonymous, and they give that safe space for the teachers, for the children, for the staff to answer. They need to be incorporated into the yearly schoolwork, and it should be able to help identify. Sorry.
Thank you. Ms. Avola.
I like this question too. This is a great one. You want to know how you improve teacher morale? Stop trying to fire them every single budget crisis. I don't know. I probably want to go to work if I don't wake up in September and think, am I going to be here in June? That'll be the first solution to that. And I'm a solution seeker. So that would be the first one. If you want teachers to be excited about going to work, then you need to make them understand that they don't have to worry about them going to work. They're putting in 100%. I was actually so worried about so many teachers in Hammersholt last year that are not tenured, that are amazing. And I was like, they're not here long enough. Are they going to be the ones? You know how many teachers we lost that left this district because they weren't tenured, because they can't afford to make that budget decision for their family for the year after? If they made this one, will they make the next one? Teacher morale 100% has to do with them not having job security. That is the first problem. The second problem is they have to be included in the conversations. Majority of the teachers didn't even know that Hammersholt was going to turn into what it was going to turn into, and no one asked the teachers, who's going to catch up these students in math when they're pulled out for music? And for those of you who don't know, I can't say they don't have enough time here, but no one asked the teachers if they were going to have enough time to catch up those students when they missed math or English or social studies or science to be pulled out for music. Those conversations needed to happen. So if you want to improve teacher morale, stop trying to fire them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Winston.
Wow. All right, so people don't quit their jobs, they typically quit their bosses. And when that happens, that's when you have to really consider the why. When you have a business administrator who decides one day that he's going to run around and remove all coffee makers and fans from the classrooms, I think we've lost our way. Okay, I think that creates hostility and anger. I wish I could read you the text messages when I announced my candidacy and the teachers who I had met along the way in my journey in the time here. There's one story I'm going to relate, and I think this captures it, that there was a woman who's now left as a result of this, because she said every time she got an email that had either the HR director, the superintendent, or the business administrator's name, that she would have a panic attack, leave the phone on the kitchen table, and her husband would have to open it and then come upstairs to their bedroom to tell them what was said. You want that job? We need to create an environment where teachers want to come to work, they want to perform, they're recognized for performance, they have the outlet as the pulse survey idea, which Neil and I drafted, and that I would encourage the superintendent to put into effect immediately. You can't come to work scared. Kids can't come to work with mental health issues and expect to learn. We have to find hope, folks. We're human beings trying to produce a product of educated children. We have a job to do, not beat people up to get that accomplished.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Braun.
Oh, thank you so much for giving me an extra half hour to talk about this since we have.
Well.
Oh, not a half hour, sorry. Okay. As a longtime East Brunswick teacher, I can have seen with my own eyes the nosedive that staff morale has experienced over the last 10 years. And it's not just because of budget shortfalls. It's a lack of respect, and that starts at the top, and you have a trickle down. Never in my career did I ever see tenured teachers who I'd worked with for years, bailing out. If that's not a signal that we've got a serious problem, I don't know what is, but yet it's been covered up under the rug. Oh, if they want to go someplace else, go right ahead. We'll hire somebody cheaper in their place. Longtime teachers, I used to joke that, they would have a party in the business office every time one of us old-timer, expensive teachers left. And then I actually witnessed it, not the party part, but we're really like, ooh, breakage, we're saving all this money from breakage. When was the Hammersholt principal notified that there was a plan to turn his school into an elementary school? My guess is 15 minutes before a meeting. How can you expect your staff to feel respected and valued when they're not even included in some of the most important decisions that are being made? And I'm looking forward very much to our new superintendent.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Canetta.
The work culture is important. I think it's important to everyone, and especially for teachers. This goes with, how well our kids do. I think there needs to be a healthy relationship built between our administration and our teachers, and that really has to start with our new superintendent as one of her priorities. To build that so that teachers are happy and they don't feel like their program or their position will be cut with all these budget talks. Teachers need to feel that they are valued, and that it's included with any changes that occur. So like I said before, in terms of any decisions that we make, it's a community effort, and we shouldn't leave teachers out of the discussions.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Tanius.
Thank you. So leadership is everything. I come from the corporate world, and I remember leadership training 101 was people won't leave, and I think somebody here said it, people won't leave this job, they will leave you. Thankfully, till this day, I've been doing what I'm doing for 18 years. Nobody has ever left me, so I'm grateful for that. But we need to also stop telling our teachers what to do. I've spoken to some of them, and I've asked, are you using differentiated instruction? And they're like, well, we can't because we have to do it this way. And education is not one size fits all. The teachers know what the kids in their classroom need. How can we tell them you have to do it this way? And then they're being assessed on how they're teaching because it doesn't fit whoever put the curriculum into place, what they saw for this. So we need to actually give them the autonomy to be able to teach. Just like in any other industry, I've seen wonderful teachers have their spirit diminished because they're not able to do what they needed to do for their class. And I really don't want to see that anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Klaus.
I want to say that a great principal recently said to me that the most important thing that a leader can do is hiring, and the most important list in his office is the empty spaces in the building that he needs to fill. When we talk to our teachers that are leaving, the attrition, the number one reason that we're seeing is they're moving to positions closer to home. The market has changed. There are a lot of teaching positions open, and something that we don't seem to have any control over is Route 18, which keeps being cited as an actual difficulty for our staff as to why they don't want to stay here. So we can't fix that. Route 18 is what it is. Someday the state will finish with it. But what we can do is that we can build on our positive environment. The leaders in the buildings, we have a lot of new principals that are working really hard on building a strong culture. What I've seen in hiring is I work outside of East Brunswick, and a supervisor once said to me, "We lost somebody I wanted to hire to East Brunswick. What do you people have over there?" And I said, "It's nice here." And he was like, "Well, we can't offer that." I'm like, but it is nice here. Our students want to come back and teach here. That says something for their experience. My daughter's in a teaching program, having just graduated from East Brunswick High School with you, because she learned here that teaching was a phenomenal career. People want to come back to this community, and we have to continue to build on that by offering our teachers more benefits, more incentives. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hong.
I worked for corporate America for quite a long time, and I became a private business owner for some time. I know how fortunate if I have a high quality staff, and how important a high quality staff means to the success of the business. So I'm so fortunate I'm negotiate both the contract for EBEA and EBPSA. I know how important our teachers' competitive salary is, so I tried my best to make sure East Brunswick teachers, directors, their salary is very competitive looking around our neighboring school district. So this is the way the board can help the teachers. And second, the job security. So when the teacher feels that his or her job is secure, and then he or she will maximize his ability and energy. So we need to build a respectfully working environment, so help teachers to respect each other and help each other to grow. Additionally, we need to provide teachers with the promotional opportunity. And East Brunswick has the tradition to promote our directors, principals from inside. And I hope the future board can keep doing this. That is a very good way to increase our teachers' morale, and it is a very good way to keep our tradition move on.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Ms. Mueller.
The point I want to emphasize is bottom-up leadership. Our teachers know our students best, and it's imperative that they are the ones who have the greatest say. I agree with Mr. Shaw's sentiments over having a quarter pulse survey. Personally, when I was a student at Hammersholt, we often had school climate surveys, yet I don't believe the same opportunity was given to the same extent for the teachers, who are the ones who are educating and helping our students grow. I also agree with Dr. Tanios over giving teachers more autonomy. A few months ago, back when I was a senior at East Brunswick High School, I spoke with some of my teachers who stated that they were actually being subject to curriculum changes where they had little to no say over. I don't think that's fair, and I think that teachers know what they can teach best, and it's important that they have a larger say in what they teach to students, because they know their students best, and they're the ones who are giving our students the support they need. Additionally, I do think that there's an increased need for more faculty meetings where teachers can feel safe in voicing concerns they have over the school. They're the ones, once again, who are helping our students, and if we want to attract and retain talent at East Brunswick, we need to create incentives for our teachers to feel safe and supported here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are going into the lightning round. That means you will either answer yes or no, or you will answer in a one phrase, depending on the question. So, Ms. Evola, we are going to begin with you, I believe. Increasing the 3-minute time limit for comment at board meetings, yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Winston?
Yes.
Ms. Braun?
Yes.
Ms. Canetta?
Yes.
Ms. Tanius?
Yes.
Ms. Guas?
No.
Mr. Hong?
Yes.
Ms. Mueller?
Yes.
Mr. Shah?
Yes.
Okay, number 2. We're starting with Mr. Winston. Closing Bowen Monroe, yes or no? Ms. Braun?
No.
Ms. Canetta?
No.
Ms. Tanius?
No.
Ms. Glass?
Depends.
Mr. Hong?
No.
Ms. Mueller?
No.
Mr. Shah?
No.
No, it was the best school for NJSLA. Why would we-
Okay, up. Okay. We're moving on. In one phrase, Ms. Braun, what will be your first priority on day one if elected?
I'm going to try to support the superintendent. She's got a heavy load to carry.
Ms. Canetta?
Superintendent goals.
Ms. Tanius?
Vision for the district, including superintendent goals.
Ms. Glass?
Conversation and communication in creating superintendent goals.
Mr. Hong?
Assistant new superintendent to set up her whole goal.
Ms. Mueller?
Improving the board's work culture so that our superintendent can help our schools.
Mr. Shah?
Supporting the superintendent and having her come back with goals that she wants to achieve.
Ms. Avola?
I would like her to set up a district-wide forum where she can meet the district and hear from them directly.
Mr. Winston?
We have so much work to do that has to be done now. Get the job done, start it up. We're on a 24-month clock in this district.
Okay, number 4. It's a yes or no answer. Yes or no? Ms. Canetta? Keep the current calendar or go back to an earlier end of the school year? Yes or no?
Keep the
Current calendar?
Keep the
or
current
go back
calendar.
to an earlier end of the school year?
Keep the current calendar.
So yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Ms. Tanius?
Revisit.
Revisit?
Yeah. You said small phrase also?
No,
Yes,
just a
no?
yes or no answer.
Yes.
Okay?
This
Ms.
is
Glass?
yes or no to keep the current calendar?
Yes?
No.
Okay. Mr. Hong?
Yes.
Ms. Mueller?
Yes.
Mr. Shah?
Yes.
Ms. Avola?
No.
Mr. Winston?
Represent the community, absolutely.
Okay, there we go. All right. Thank you, Ms. Braun. Thank you for following directions.
It was my committee.
We appreciate
I
it.
absolutely want it.
All right. Ms. Tanios, last question. Regarding LGBTQ plus policy and BOE policy 5756, do you support policy that compels staff to respect students' wishes, or do you feel it is important that staff should report?
5756 as it is.
Thank you. Ms. Glass?
Support student wishes.
Mr. Hong?
Support students' wishes.
Ms. Mueller?
Support students' wishes.
Mr. Shah?
Definitely support students' wishes.
Ms. Avola?
Support.
Mr. Winston?
Support students' wishes.
Ms. Braun?
Follow state law.
Okay. Ms. Canetta?
Support students.
Okay. And Ms. Tanya? You started.
I
it.
started.
That's right. All right. Well, you've done a great job. That brings us to our closing. Each of you will have 30 seconds to make your closing remarks. Please keep an eye on the timer back there and be respectful of everyone's times. And we're going to start with Ms. Squouse. Your 30 seconds begins.
I want to thank everyone for being here this evening and giving us the opportunity to speak. I want to say the 6 years that I have spent on the board so far have been one of the greatest learning experiences of my life, and I've been living in a classroom for 34 years as a staff member. I also want to say that I am so excited about the new superintendent and the opportunities we have when you meet her, and I know you will because we are pushing for more communication. There is something about her that is electric, and I am just very excited for the work we are going to be able to do moving forward.
Thank you. Mr. Hong.
So I want to thank Dr. Zambiki and EBEA for this opportunity to meet East Brunswick voters. And for the last 9 years, I worked diligently, discharging my duty as Board of Education members, and my service has been recognized by Middlesex County SBA and NJSBA. As East Brunswick voters, you should choose the right person to do the right job for the right reason, for the best future of East Brunswick, this community. Please vote in for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mueller.
I want to reiterate that I'm the proud product of the East Brunswick schools. I have 13 years of relevant experience as a student, and I want to integrate students more into the conversation. I'm excited for our superintendent, and I want to make initiatives to improve our schools. When you think of me and my campaign, please remember 3 things: new voice, new ideas, new generation. I would be honored to earn your vote on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw.
First of all, I'd like to thank the EBEA for hosting this program tonight, allowing us all to express our platforms. I really want to reiterate also that the 20-point plan that Jeff and I have come up with really encompasses how we plan to appreciate while on the board. No surprises, we're giving the community a tool to keep us accountable. Thank you for your time tonight, support, and most of all, your trust.
Thank you. Ms. Savola.
Thank you. You guys can read my bio. It will tell you what I've been able to do in the last 2 years for the budget. I need to be here for the 1-year term because I need to be in front of that budget to be able to represent you guys. I want to make sure that we have a strong curriculum that's going to prepare these students for college and for their futures. I want to make sure that the budget is not hurting the classroom impact. I want to make sure that we are voting what represents the community and not what we want ourselves. So you might be seeing my purple lawn signs all over the place. Those are people who are supporting me, who believe in my vision, and I hope you do too.
Thank you. Mr. Winston.
Look, I started 18 months ago when I left the board, changed the culture, changed the results. 1957, my father opened up this high school, and right now he would not be pleased. I am offering myself for 1 year. I have the historical knowledge. I've already gone under the hood. The 24-point platform are real things that I already know need to start. We don't have time to go on fact-finding missions, folks. I can't stress that enough. You got kids in this district, you're a taxpayer, you're a staff member, you want me back there for 1 year to change the culture so it be left behind. You're welcome.
Ms. Braun.
Normally an incumbent can go back and point to all the great things that they've done, and I've thought about this quite a bit. What have I done? I walked into a dumpster fire in budget season, and honestly, I felt like I was trying to put it out with a teacup. And as a retired East Brunswick teacher, I've seen what goes on inside the schools. I know what the problems are because I lived them and breathed them. And I'm here for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Canetta.
Thank you to the EBEA and to the community for listening. Our district has faced challenges and made tough decisions. We can't solve everything overnight, but over time we can get there with communication, building relationships, and setting goals. I have the independent perspective and drive to meet these challenges with our children and teachers in mind, and I hope to work with the new superintendent.
Thank you. And Ms. Tanyus, you end our evening.
Thank you. So thank you to the EBA for hosting this evening. It's been very informative for myself as well, and I'm surrounded by so much talent, so I'm grateful for that too. I have been on this board since July, and I think the advantage that I have here is that you're able to see what I've been able to do in that time. I will always be an advocate and a voice, and I won't let anything hold that back, even when it's the unpopular opinion in the room, because I care about every child in this district. I care about all of our staff, and I care about all of you, our community, even if you don't have children in this school.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, we'd like to say goodnight. On behalf of the East Brunswick Education Association, we thank you, board candidates. We wish you the best of luck. And to our community members, we thank you for tuning in and hearing about the issues that impact your students. Good night.